Portal is one of those games that surprises anyone who starts it without really knowing what you expect. What first appears to be nothing more than a great puzzle game slowly reveals that something else is happening beneath the surface. Then, a few questions begin to emerge. Why do we keep moving forward when the reward is nothing more than a cake? More, why would an AI as sophisticated as GLaDOS choose something as trivial as cake as a prize? For this discussion, I like to establish a distinction. It's not an academic classification, just my own way of organizing the ideas. The first is what I would call active manipulation. It includes every attempt to change what we want. These are direct interventions on what someone thinks, wants, or does. Hypnosis, NLP, conditioning, brainwashing, and similar methods all fall into this category. Here, the victim becomes almost a puppet, with their agency severely compromised. But there's another form of manipulation, one that is much simpler and much older than all of these. Instead of creating a new desire, it makes use of one that already exists. It works with a person's own inclinations rather than against them. This is what I call passive manipulation. A quote often attributed to Schopenhauer captures the premise remarkably well. Man can do what he wills, but he cannot will what he wills. Rather than trying to create an external desire, passive manipulation pursues its own goals by using the person's existing desires as the means to achieve them. The intention isn't created, it's identified and redirected. Understanding someone can be just as powerful as controlling them. GLaDOS, the AI guiding us through the test chambers, relies precisely on this kind of passive manipulation. Very little is known about Shell, but one trait Doug Redman recognized was her extraordinary determination and her refusal to give up. To him, that made her the ideal candidate to defeat GLaDOS. Ironically, it's also exactly what GLaDOS exploits to guide Shell through the facility, and that's where things become especially interesting. There's also a certain type of player who enjoys solving puzzle games, someone drawn to figuring out how to overcome each chamber, someone who values focus and persistence, as though, much like Shell, they too would make an ideal test subject. Every chamber we complete in Portal leads to another, especially at the beginning, when finishing each room feels like the game's entire purpose. There was a quiet sense of satisfaction that leaves little room for questioning. Rarely do we stop to ask, why am I doing this? Our attention naturally shifts toward a different question. How do I solve this? Our curiosity finds exactly what it was looking for. Another challenge is waiting in the next room, placing the portal gun on the right walls and moving forward suddenly feels like the only thing that matters. But none of this happens by accident. It's all carefully orchestrated. GLaDOS manipulates Shell. Portal manipulates the player. For most of the game, there isn't much urgency. The payoff at the end becomes increasingly irrelevant. Likewise, stopping doesn't carry any dramatic consequence. So why do we keep going? The truth is, one story about manipulation is being told while another is being carried out. Metafiction, in its purest form, Shell's extraordinary determination closely mirrors that of the player who chose to play Portal. She volunteered for Aperture's testing program. We volunteered the moment we clicked New Game. Even after discovering that the cake is a lie, we keep going. As long as there is another chamber to solve or another clever way to move forward using the portals, the reward waiting at the end becomes secondary. The first time I heard there would be cake waiting at the end, I barely reacted. It didn't strike me as absurd. It didn't even seem inappropriate, just irrelevant. Looking back, I'm surprised I never questioned such an obvious inconsistency. An artificial intelligence capable of designing intricate test chambers and running an entire scientific research facility offers cake as a reward. I think the explanation lies precisely in GLaDOS herself. She didn't fail to offer a better incentive. She demonstrated the cold efficiency of a machine that refuses to do more than what is necessary to achieve the desired outcome. She already possessed everything she needed to keep Chell moving forward: the portal gun, the test chambers, the challenge themselves. The cake wasn't the point. It was simply a prize, something enough to fill the place within a structure of promises and incentives. The reality is that GLaDOS never needed a compelling promise. She already had a compelling process. For both Chell and the player, curiosity was always more valuable than any dessert. Knowing how persistent her test subjects were, all she had to do was keep presenting another challenge, because that's where the motivation to continue truly came from. Passive manipulation works by quietly numbing our impulse to question. A deep understanding of someone's interests combined with the careful use of them naturally encourages cooperation. There is no need to convince someone to pursue something entirely new. The path simply begins to feel like the obvious one. That's why the gamification of everyday life demonstrates that manipulation is, above all else, a tool, and tools have no morality. That belongs to the people who use them, to the purpose they were designed to serve. Think about a fitness app congratulating you for your consistency, celebrating 300 consecutive days of completed workouts, or a reading app reminding you that you're only 20 minutes away from preserving your streak. In essence, you are being manipulated into doing those things. From the outside, a number on a screen representing consecutive days may seem insignificant, at least from a shallow, overly skeptical perspective. In practice, however, those seemingly trivial incentives become exactly what many people need to remain consistent. The manipulation wasn't merely accepted beforehand, it also produced positive results. Stronger routines, lasting habits, entire patterns of behavior the sheer willpower alone often struggles to sustain. A well-designed system doesn't force someone to take the next step. It simply makes that step feel like the best one. With all this in mind, I believe the cake could have been replaced by almost any other equally unremarkable prize, even if you happen to love cake. A medal, a trophy, even money. By the time we started thinking about the goal, we had already fallen in love with the process. I often think about childhood competitions, nothing professional, just simple games played for the joy of pursuing something, followed by genuine excitement when we finally succeeded. It's the very same principle. The greatest manipulation wasn't making us believe in the cake, it was making the cake almost irrelevant. Freedom isn't defined solely by choosing where to go or what to do. Sometimes it's about recognizing where the motivation behind the choice truly came from. Have you ever thought about manipulation like that? Let me know. If you like this content, please hit the like button. If you want more, check my other videos and subscribe. There's new content every Wednesday. I'm Charles, and I truly appreciate your time.